Hello and welcome to Unleashed. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I am excited to be here with David A. Fields, my good friend who's been on the show more than anyone else. He's been on the show, 10 or 12 times. David, welcome back. It's always great to speak with you.
Hi, Will. It is nice to see you again, and I love speaking with you. It's always fun.
So I will just start by saying you should pause the podcast right now if you haven't already and go to David's website. It's davidafields.com and sign up for his weekly blog posts. I get them by email every Wednesday morning. It's the first thing I read on Wednesday mornings. It's always useful insights into consulting, plus some amazing illustrations done by David, his stick figure illustrations. Um,
You are
and
very kind.
so, David, I wanted to talk to you. For listeners who aren't familiar with your work, I should also mention your book, The Irresistible Consultant's Guide to Winning Clients. I have given out a couple hundred copies of that book because I value it so much. You work with many boutique consulting firms,
Yes.
advising them, and I wanted to talk today about cold outreach.
Okay.
I know it's not maybe your favorite way of building business, but after you've exhausted your calls to your existing network,
Hmm.
you want to get some new blood. Talk to me about, and I think you've experimented with this a bit.
Yep.
Talk to me about cold outreach.
Okay. I was talking about cold outreach. It might be the shortest conversation we've ever had, Will. We'll see. um, but if you came to me, Will, and you said, look, I've exhausted my network. Where should I go? I would not say, Will, reach out to some people you don't know. Let's do cold outreach. That's not what I would advise you. It is it's a tactic of last resort. And can you have it in your mix? And is there a way to have it in your mix? Yes. However, it really there are a lot of things you should try first. The five marketing musts, which are networking, speaking, writing, trade associations, which I would, if I release a new version of that book, I will change that to collaborations and digital presence. None of those is cold outreach. Even the networking is in cold outreach. And so if you're like, wow, gosh, I've exhausted it, well, I'm going to say, Will, let's work on the other of the five marketing musts. Let's find people you can collaborate with so you can get in front of their tribes. Let's find out who you can get introduced to. So it's not cold, right? So we're going to do almost anything before we do cold to build your network. And the reason for that is cold outreach is remarkably inefficient for most consultants. Now, we know this from our work with a lot of firms. And as you mentioned, we've been experimenting with it. And the reason we experimented with it is because so many of our clients say, hey, should we do this? Should we do that? And I like to be able to say, all right, well, look, we put 20 grand against this tactic or 20 grand against that tactic and a bunch of man hours and tried it. That way we're speaking not just from what we hear from clients, but from experience. A good cold outreach campaign can create some contacts and it can create some conversations. What we have found is by and large, they are extremely slow to close if they close at all. So the close rate is way lower. The efficiency is way lower. You're spending a whole bunch of time now having conversations with really low likelihood prospects. And the sales cycle is crazy long. Though we have one exception, we have a client in Poland that has had some success with it. However, their offering, where they go to market is fairly productized and commoditized. And so the more you're offering a product, the more cold outreach makes sense. Right? The closer you are to like pure product sales, then salesy kind of techniques can apply. But for most of us, where there's some bespoke element, where we're selling our expertise and experience, and so it's very trust driven. Cold outreach is just incredibly inefficient. So with all of that as backdrop, you want to know how to do it?
All right. So if you are still excited about cold outreach, David, with all those caveats.
Oh my gosh. All right. The I'll tell you what we've learned recently and what sort of we've learned historically, maybe in reverse order. Cold outreach, a lot of the things that work for warm outreach don't work for cold outreach, where you're starting with relationship building and all of that kind of stuff. That doesn't seem to work very well with cold. Cold does actually, cold outreaches tend to respond to the salesy stuff that you learn in those horrible sales books. Those techniques that make you cringe a little bit because they feel really salesy work for cold outreach. So a little bit more hardcore selling messages work. The Ben Franklin approach does work for cold outreach. The Ben Franklin approach being, so if you read the autobiography of Ben Franklin, he talks about how you have more success asking for a small favor than trying to give a favor. So asking for something works better with cold outreach. Asking for help on an article or a webinar or research or, for a podcast or for almost anything, you'll get a little bit more success than just general relationship building. What we call an aggressive reframe also can work for cold outreach. An aggressive reframe comes in the form of, and Will, you can probably, I'll say what it is, then you'll tell me if you have one. It tends to sound like this. Most people, most executives believe X. In fact, Y is true, right? Where Y is something quite different. For us, we will say, most consulting firms think they should be differentiating versus competition. In fact, you don't need to worry about differentiation at all. That's not how you win business, right? So that's what we call an aggressive reframe, because we're not necessarily waiting for someone to say something and then we go, well, that's kind of interesting. Let me reframe that for you. We're just going straight out to someone who doesn't even know us and saying, you know what, you probably think something is true. In fact, it's not. Something different is true because we want to hook them. We're doing a little bit of a pattern interrupt. So now, do you have one for Umbrex? I'll put you on the spot.
No, I don't. I don't have an aggressive reframe. So that's one to think about.
Yeah, you can, if you want, you can develop it. They are very powerful.
Okay.
They're just, our whole approach tends to be a little bit more conversational, right? And cold doesn't lend itself to that. And the other thing we've learned with cold is that there's a technique you may be familiar with. We've discussed it before. We've done it in sessions with Umbrex and Veritux before, is 111 messaging.
Yeah.
So when we developed 111 messaging, we developed it for cool contacts in your network core. What we found is it's really effective for cold. Like cold outreach on LinkedIn using a 111 approach, you have to modify it a little bit, but it works really well.
And for listeners who haven't listened to the 111 episode that we did, remind us.
So 111 it's just a way to construct your messages to people. Like I said, it was originally meant to be for warm contacts or cool contacts to your network. People like, Will, if you and I hadn't talked in a year and a half, we have a good relationship, but it would be cooled down. So I need a way to reach out to you and spark conversation, get you re-engaged. And so the 1-1-1 is one focus. The one focus is them, the other person. It's not yourself. It's a right side up email. It's about them. The second one is it's one line. If you have hit your enter key more than 3 times, you're something's wrong. It's a one-liner. And the third one in 111 is it's one question. And that question must be easy to answer. So a 111 could sound like this. Hey, Will, and I could do this on LinkedIn with you, or I could do it on email or whatever. Hey, Will, it's been forever since we chatted. Are you still running Umbrex? That's it. David. That's the whole message. Nothing but not how are you, which is too hard to answer. Not here's how I'm doing, because you don't care yet. I'm just trying to get you re-engaged. We won't do a whole thing on 111s, but I'll answer two common questions. One is, David, isn't that stupid? You can look on LinkedIn and tell Will is running Umbrex. Or you can just look. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It would be a 1 in 100 response. Someone's like, of course I'm running Umbrex, you dolt. That most people will just be, yeah, I'm still running it. And they're glad, they're appreciative that maybe you're busy and you didn't look, but at least you inquired. Okay. So don't worry about it being, well, I should know that already. Put that aside. Get over yourself. And the other sort of question is, can it really be that short and just like that? And the answer is yes. It's extraordinarily effective.
Keep it short.
Keep it short and keep it really, really simple. Yes, no question. You're not looking for a meeting in a 111. You're not looking to sell business in a 111. You are simply looking to re-engage. And when you say, yeah, I'm still running Umbrex, things are really busy. How are things with you? I'm like, oh, well, look at that. Now I've got an invitation to get on the phone with you, to get on the Zoom call with you. Okay. Which is where we're headed. All right. So what we have found, it was designed for what the situation I just described. What we found is you can use this with cold outreach. You can use this on LinkedIn, and I've never heard of you. And as long as I make a really easy request, what might be an easy request? Hi, Will, it looks like you're running a consulting related firm. Do you work with ex-McKinsey types? That's it. Now, does it work as well as with your own network? Of course not. Because someone who doesn't know who you are is going to say, all right, this guy's here to sell me something. This is a way in. And so a lot of them won't respond. The 111 response rate with your own network will be around 40%. We've found. When you first try it out, you'll try it with easy and you'll get like 80%. But as you try it over time, it's 40%, which is way better than any other technique, any other engagement technique. It's really extraordinary. With cold, you won't get 40%.
So come up with some example of a consultant who is reaching out to cold prospects on LinkedIn. Yeah. What are some of the things that you might say when you reach out using the 111 idea? Some simple question.
Well, it's because I'm such a tactical person. Will, it's easier for me to like pull someone random on LinkedIn. I'm going to open up LinkedIn as we do this right now.
All right.
I'm going to go to network, because when you go to network, it just shows you people, right? It's just like, I will pick someone at random. I don't know who this person is.
Okay.
I'm just going to look at their profile. This is venture partner at Advent Venture Partners. I have no idea what that is. Let's see. Joined in 2007. Co-founded something. So I might reach out. These do take a little bit of time, right? So I've been able to learn to do this fairly quickly. But we've learned from experience with our clients that 111 outreaches are harder than they look. Okay. So if you're listening and you're like, okay, that sounds easy, and you try it and you find yourself stumbling, you just push through it and keep trying, maybe get some help. They are much harder than they first appear. Okay. So I might reach out to this guy. It'd be helpful if I can see his actual profile, his full profile. Wow. He's been here for 25 years. So I might even say this. I might say, hi, Don. It looks like you've been at this company, Advent, for 25 years. Wow, that seems like a crazy long time. Is it really that many years? Question mark.
Huh?
Now, we could try this live and see whether he responds. I don't know. I mean, I literally don't know, have no idea who this person is. I picked him up at random.
Sure. Why don't you send it? And if,
And then we're going to check back at some point. All right, I'll do that,
check
but I
back.
won't tap away while
All right.
we're recording. Um, there's probably he doesn't has any idea who I am. There's about a 20% chance
Yeah.
he'll respond. It's a non-threatening question. He's going to look and go, okay, I'm not a headhunter. So this guy's, it's not obvious what he's trying to sell. So, I don't know. I'll report back.
Okay. Um, so have you seen any of your clients put in some kind of programmatic cold outreach program that works as a Poland client?
Oh, put it in? Yes. That it works? No.
Okay. All right. Um,
It's
what
too
if,
inefficient. It is
yeah,
just way too inefficient. You can get leads. What I've seen is people put it in place
yeah,
and then they're excited because their pipeline looks good. There's a lot of leads, a lot of meetings.
hmm,
Closing, that's a whole nother matter though. And it's the close rate and the sales cycle is so long. Here's how it actually, I think there is a way to do cold outreach correctly. And the way to do cold outreach correctly is to not think of it as cold outreach to win business. Is to think of it as cold outreach as the first step in a 3-year process of winning clients.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And so I'm going to do cold outreach. I'm going to meet all these people now. And then over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to build relationships with them. And some of them will turn into clients. And so if you view cold outreach as a 3-year investment, then I think it might work. But I have yet to meet a consulting firm that is quite that patient,
mm-hmm.
especially when there are other faster, more efficient ways at it.
All right. Let's take a slightly warmer, but still pretty cool. Let's say a consultant has LinkedIn connections with,
Yeah.
some random people that somehow they connected with. Maybe they were inbound connection requests, or maybe they've been doing like persistently doing some outbound connection requests to people with some affinity group. So let's say you have a set of LinkedIn connections that you have never spoken with, right?
Oh my gosh.
Which many people have that situation, or connections that you've never spoken with.
Yeah.
What would your tips be on how to engage someone that you're connected with on LinkedIn, first reconnection, but you've never spoken with the person? They're a potential client. Let's say they fit your kind of target profile. How would you think about reaching out to that person to get to a conversation?
Will, I see we're first connections on LinkedIn. To be honest, I don't remember how we connected. Do you have any idea? That's my message to you.
Okay, so that's approach number one. Okay.
Well, let me ask you, do you think you'd respond or not?
Uh, I would probably not respond to that, but I can imagine some people might.
Okay. What
Um,
would be a message you would respond to?
so I would, no, I actually just got a cold uh, outreach today that I thought was actually pretty good.
Oh, all
And
right.
yeah,
Right on.
I will. So this one, let me just pull this up here. Where was this today? Oh, here we go. It said, "Hi, Will. I head up blank, a spin out from Bain and Company, providing workforce insights for due diligence, benchmarking, and many other investment use cases. Period. I would welcome the opportunity to show you a demo. Feel free to book time on my calendar.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an A plus outreach. Now I don't necessarily expect that I'm going to book time with this person, but
And was it A
uh,
plus because he happened to hit on a topic that meets where you have a need or where you have an interest?
well, I don't necessarily know that I will, respond, but I liked it. In fact, I kept a copy of it. So it's A plus. I'm not going to necessarily respond to it, but I liked it because it was short, to the point, and if I were interested in getting workforce insights through due diligence, then it was like, wasn't super salesy. It was like, here's what I do in one sentence. Do you want to speak? It wasn't trying to beat around the bush or pretend. It was just, here's what we do. Would you like to discuss?
Can I pick on you for just a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
So back in when I started in marketing research, like 40 years ago, whenever the heck I started working. And my boss in marketing research hated qualitative. He would
All
not
right.
he would not support focus groups. He said, you go into a focus group, and here's what happens: is people you show them the product, you show them the phone, and they go, well, this is great. He said, well, would you buy this? Well, no, I wouldn't, but I think other people would. Right? And everybody's like, yeah, well, I wouldn't buy it, but I think other people would. And that's how you get firms, companies to launch a product that nobody buys.
Yeah.
So I hear you that you think it's really good, and it might in fact be really good. But the fact that you wouldn't actually respond to him does not speak to it being
No, it's
really
true.
good.
But the fact that I was even considering speaking
Yeah,
to him
okay, good.
was like,
Well,
where
it's better than
normally,
most.
well, it's better than most. Whereas normally, I mean, I get so many of these inbound, just like you, I'm sure, every day, like more salesy, spammy stuff that even to kind of get in the consideration set and like, oh, maybe, nah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll grant you that. You're right. It wasn't salesy, and he said, "Here's something I've got. Here's what we do. Maybe it's a value. If it's a value, go for it."
Yeah.
And yeah, you can do that. But again, the closer the service is to consulting, the less effective that is, right? Because consulting is driven so much by trust.
Yeah.
It's one thing if someone's promising something and it's going to cost you 25 grand, right? But if it's 250 grand, winning that off of a cold outreach, that's pretty freaking tough.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned before the the things that engage someone, like getting their insight, do the Benjamin Franklin, the ask,
Sure.
would you, I feel that one is so played out
It's
that
possible.
it's like, people ask you, oh, would you like to be in my podcast? Or, oh, would you be involved in our customer, market research on this topic or something?
Yep.
It feels so transparent now, like so many people are doing it, that's like a tough area to.
I agree with you. I just don't have the power that it once did. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I've tried some of that, but it feels like people are just now so suspicious or so kind of, they have their defensive shields up against that.
100%. Hey, Will Bachman, have you tried cold outreach?
Yes.
And have you won much business from it?
No.
Okay. I was just curious. I mean, because, anybody listening, they would be like, well, David, maybe you should have asked that before you went down this road saying it doesn't work. But I just thought I'd check in.
So no, we haven't had a ton of success with it. We have been doing a lot of cold outreach. So it's hard to say exactly, but I also have a very long-term horizon in effect. So, it's and with us, with what Umbrex offers, it's a little bit easier. It's not exactly productized, but it's a little bit easier than individual consultant who does like one specific service line. Because we
Absolutely.
say basically, hey, you need an independent consultant, we can help you find one. So for us, it's like, even if it's not immediate projects, it's just general brand awareness, and then stuff comes back a year later or something. So we have had some success, and I'd love to maybe transition to this next topic.
Okay.
We're beginning to have some success getting a little bit more organized about people who express interest in some of the content that we create, of turning those into conversations. So I'd like to get your thoughts around that of, for one of your clients, let's say they have a lead magnet, they create some content, people engage with it on social media. What are your tips on how to convert those, engagements, or when people download something from the website, converting those into conversations?
Okay. That's really interesting. I'm not, it's funny, the whole lead magnet thing, especially the way it tends to be promoted online. I'm sort of so on. But that said, lead magnet's a really broad term. I have 2 books that are published and a couple that are unpublished, and will be at some point. I'll finish them, I promise. The books have generated millions and millions and millions of dollars of business. So is a book a lead magnet? Yeah, I think so. Do we offer it for free on the website? No. Okay. So like, how do you define a lead magnet? I'm not sure. But if it's just like content in general that people can get their hands on, we've had tremendous success, like crazy amounts of success
Yeah,
with content.
I would not include a book
Okay.
because I mean, that is thought leadership, but you don't get the contact information for the person. So I'm thinking more
Oh,
of,
but we do.
well, from Amazon, if someone buys
No,
it,
we get our best estimate is we get 30 to 40% of readers.
who sign up on your website.
Yep.
But that's what I'm talking about. So that's thought leadership that brings someone to your website and signs up on your blog. So how do you convert like blog, people who subscribe to your blog emails into clients?
The Right, because the way the book was designed and written is in part to capture those names
Okay.
and to get them to the point where they are consuming content. And some of those folks who consume content will never show up as clients, but, the vast majority of them, and a lot of them do show up as clients. We've probably had more success with higher engagement approaches, webinars, podcasts, so forth, than we have had with just putting content and lead magnets, as it were. Mm-hmm. But there's a basic principle that applies to all of this, which is you find opportunities in conversation. And opportunities lead to proposals, and proposals lead to projects. Therefore, we have to get into conversation.
Right.
And so no matter what you're putting out into the world, put it out into the world in a way that encourages and leads to conversation. What we've done a better job of recently is making that path to conversation super easy. The last thing we did, I think, with Umbrex, which we still need to do a follow-up on, by the way. We had a thing at the end where it says, here's a QR code and answer the question. And people could go, and there was a way they'd put in their name and say, yes, I'd like to have a conversation about growing my firm. That led to a lot of conversations. So again, that's not lead magnet. If you're just putting content out there, what I would suggest is as much as possible, you want to create engagement. You want to create an opportunity for people to not just consume, but to join in, to get into conversation in some way. Mm-hmm. And if you can get them to respond, to send you a note, to say whether they liked it, to in some way interact, then you're a step closer to being where you and I are right now, which is where we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
And when we're talking to each other, something may come up or may not, but it's much more likely to. So that's the most reliable way. Of course, if you put good content out there, a certain number of people are going to say, wow, this looks really great. Do you have more? Can you help me with it? But that's,
I'd say it's pretty rare that a consumer of your content will actually raise their hand like that. We need to be, I think, more proactive. So if someone just comments or downloads your piece or whatever, I think there's some step that we need to take to reach out to that person and say, hey, would love to hear about your work at, Microsoft. Would you be open to a short call?
Yeah. I mean, you should, there are, I think some of it is just getting out of our own way. Make it easy for people to reach out to you. So we probably get, I'd have to ask my team, but I don't know, like 3 to 5 inquiries a week.
Okay.
From firms that are mostly just responding to content. Now, but why do we get that? Most firms don't. Well, part of it is just longevity, right? I mean, I've published somewhere around 500 articles at this point, right? In addition to the books so some of it is, right, it's just being out there and putting enough out there that something resonates. I've thrown enough spaghetti at the wall that one particular strand resonates with someone. They're like, what, this might actually be helpful.
Yeah.
And for long enough that the reminder advertising works. So we do find that people just raise their hand. But it's partly because we've been really working at it for a long, long, long time.
Well, what about people who subscribe to your blog, let's say? Do
Yeah.
you try to, I mean, you probably have a lot more people signing up for your blog than the 3 to 5 inquiries that you get.
Yeah.
Uh, do you reach out to those people, do a little survey, or
We
say,
don't. Could
okay,
we? Probably we don't. We literally run either 1 or 2 promotions a year, period. And it's usually for under 2 weeks. And that's just for the solo members of the tribe to, if they want to join a solo practice accelerator.
yeah,
We do also let people in larger firms know about the boutique consulting forum, which isn't our thing. But we're part of it. Other than that, no, we actually do not leverage our tribe at all. Now, that's probably a bad example for,
yeah,
I'm not sure that's the best model for folks. On the other hand, I think we have pretty high trust
yeah.
because we don't ever promote.
Really? Do you, when people sign up for your blog, you ask them to fill out some kind of little survey about
Nope.
their practice or anything?
Nope.
Okay.
We get very, and in the other room, there's someone from my team cringing and saying, "But Will, we should," and for years they've been saying we could do more with our tribe, and they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And if you're listening and you'd like us to do more, please tell me.
Yeah.
But again, I don't feel like in this case I may be the best model, and I think
Right.
there are better models in our clients because we're very fortunate. And we're doing some things right? I have a very, very narrow practice. And I've been focused on it for a while, and we get a ton of inbound. And so I don't have to go out to the network that way. For a lot of folks, I think it is useful to go out to the network and to engage them. So if your content gets people on your list, then approaching them and seeing if they have certain interests, and maybe you'd like a little bit more about pricing, or maybe you'd like to know more about polyurethane, or whatever your specialty is.
Yeah.
Sending a little bit of value probably won't go astray. I don't know that it will win you business, but it won't go astray.
Do you have any clients that are actually getting leads from the content that they create and put out there?
Oh yeah. We have a lot of clients. I mean, we're not the only client that gets leads from the content.
Tell me about some of your consulting firms that you serve and how they are, getting leads from their content, how they convert those like people who sign up for your content into actual discussions and then discussions.
But so it's exactly what I told you, right? Because not surprisingly, because this is what we teach them to do. They are putting their content out in a way that makes it very easy for people to engage. What I haven't had folks do, but is we're talking about, it'd be interesting to try, is as people sign up, try to immediately get them into some sort of, group or conversation. Say, saw you signed up. It looks like, would you be willing to jump into one of these little panels we have? I have no idea whether that would work. So again, I'd be interested in if there's a listener who's done it. Maybe they can educate us. But for the most part, I can think of a handful of our clients that are doing really well off of content. And it's because you put good content out, you make it very easy for people to respond. And then from there you go into conversation.
David, why don't you share once again, just to close it out here, share the best way for people to find you?
I will do that. Can I do one more tip? There's something we found that's really interesting, which is that because I said we only promote a couple of times a year, and it's for a certain group. And what we tell people is, if you're not in this group, let us know. Right? Just tell us. Reply one word, like boutique. And what we have found is when people respond back and say, I'm not in that group, it is an amazing opportunity to reach out and go, oh, really? Tell me a little bit more about your firm. And we have one business directly from clients who responded negatively, if you will, to the original promotion, who said, I don't fit the profile. This promotion is not for me. We're like, really? That's so interesting. Tell me more about your business. Would you be willing to jump on a call? And that has yielded us clients. So I'm going to throw that out there because I just think it's really interesting.
Okay.
Okay, now what was I supposed to share?
Where can people find you online?
DavidAFields.com.
All
That
right.
would be the website.
All right. Fantastic. David, thank you for the insights and the clear-eyed, clear-viewed picture of the pros and cons of cold outreach. Thank you
Well,
for joining.
you know what? Well, it is always so much fun chatting with you. Thank you for having me on your show again.
Hey, it's Will. Here is a short addendum to this conversation with David. So I spoke with David on a Wednesday. David emailed me 4 days later on a Monday morning and said, "Hey, Will, during our podcast, I picked someone at random on LinkedIn, Don from Advent, and wrote a 111 outreach on the spot. What I actually typed as my 111 was the following. Hi, Don. It looks like you've been at Advent for a crazy long time. I'm impressed. Is it really 17 years? David." So did it work? David writes. Did Don ignore my 111 or did he write back? And we thought that you might be interested in the results. So David writes, he wrote back. He connected to me and his message back mentioned an article he had penned about his experience over 17 years, which creates another opportunity to engage him in conversation. I figured this little case study result would be a good postscript to our podcast. And David, I agree. Yes, it is. So I wanted to share it.